An introduction to Shivananda Lahari. Shrutismritipurāṇānaṁ ālayam karuణālayam namāmi bhagavatpādam shankaram lokashankaram. Namastasmai bhagavate shankarācārya-rūpiणे yena vedanta vidyeyam udhrita vedasāgarāt. सत्संगमेन भवति श्रवणं पुरस्तात् संकीर्तनं पशुपतेरथ तद्दृढं स्यात्. सर्वोत्तमं भवति तन्मननं तदन्ते सर्वं हि संभवति शङ्करदृष्टिपाते. When one is in the company of the wise learned people only, shravanam, that is listening to scriptures, is possible. In other words, with the blessings from the wise, one will gain the opportunity to do Shravanam. This will then inspire devotee to enjoy singing verses in praise of Parameshwara. Subsequently, the next important means to gain moksha, that is sadhana to gain moksha, which is mananam, will happen. Then, with blessings from Shankara, the devotee will gain success in everything. In life, the means to gain self-knowledge is classified into 3 steps or 3 levels: Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam. Shruti says the same as Shrotavyo, Mantavyo, Nididhyasitavyaha. From today, we will be reflecting on the meaning of Shivananda Lahari verses. For this, Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam are essential. So, firstly, we have to listen to the verse, then understand the word meaning, and then its implied or suggested meaning. That will further take us to the next level of Nididhyasanam, that is contemplation. It is exactly 1 month since we studied the in-depth meaning of Sri Shankara Bhagavatpada's treatise, the 100 verses of Saundarya Lahari praising Devi. According to Samskrita literature, Saundarya Lahari verses are composed in the style called Prasanna Gambhira, which means each verse is very profound and pregnant with a lot of meaning. Just like the ocean, the depth of the ocean cannot be measured. That is, the ocean appears very calm on the surface, but as you delve deeper and into it, you will understand its expansiveness and also discover the treasures buried beneath. The joy on finding the mine of treasures will make us forget the pain and hardships that we experienced as we immersed ourselves in the process. Similarly, when we began our study of the verses of Saundarya Lahari, we started with the basic meaning and then progressed to understanding the detailed inner meaning conveyed by each and every word of the verses, coming in beautiful waves. This revealed the profound knowledge embedded in the mind of the composer Sri Adi Shankaracharya. In his compositions, he always uses words which imply much more than what we initially perceive. Such is his greatness. Through the verses in Saundarya Lahari, he taught us the Panchadashi mantra and gave us a very detailed knowledge about Sri Chakra. Then he inspired us to stay focused on self-knowledge by giving different methods of worship. Those methods may appear very exhaustive and challenging to many a mind. As though sensing this, Acharya Shankara has given us the treatise Shivananda Lahari, which is a composition of 100 verses carrying the sentiment of devotion, Bhakti Bhava. Initially, The verses are set in such a way that one would feel Acharya Shankara is holding our hand and walking us through the path of devotion. As we go along with the Acharya, not losing sight of the meaning implied by each and every word, we will certainly be immersed in the waves of devotional outpourings culminating in oneness with the supreme bliss, that is Paramananda Advaita Bhava. Sri Shankara, in his compassion to share the same Paramananda Advaita Bhava which he experienced with all the Jivas, he has given us this beautiful treatise, Shivananda Lahari. The verses explain how to tread the spiritual path, how to control and direct the thoughts occurring in the mind, how to offer worship to Ishvara, etc., in a very lucid manner, giving complete clarity to the learner. One who learns Shivananda Lahari, digesting the profound meaning implied, will undoubtedly become a Satpurusha, that is, a venerable person. This is one among the many significances of this treatise. Also, the learner will gain a tranquil mind and continue to be steadfast in his or her spiritual pursuit. Consequently, such a person will mature and evolve in spiritual mindset. Every syllable and word in the verses is so powerful that it will give rise to purity and clarity of thought. It is popularly known that Sri Shankara Bhagavatpada composed this treatise Shivananda Lahari in the august presence of Lord Mallikarjuna with consort Sri Bhramaramba at the temple in Sri Shailam. When one sings these verses, it will feel like Sri Shankara is alive in each mind, verbalizing the feelings of devotion. Sri Shankara's Advaita philosophy is built into these verses with so much ease that every devotee will effortlessly be led into the feeling of oneness with Ishvara by the time she or he comes to the end of this composition. In this Shivananda Lahari, shlokas 1 to 27 is set in the meter or chandas named Shikharini, which has 17 syllables in each quarter. That is similar to what we learnt in Saundarya Lahari. But the other or the rest of the verses from 28 onwards are all set in different meters. This is another significance of this composition. Another speciality is many different figures of speech are used, that is Alankara. A brief note on Alankara in Samskrita literature is as follows. It helps us to understand and completely identify with the meaning suggested by the verse. For example, in Ramayana and in the Kishkinda Khanda, when Valmiki explains how clean is the waters of Pampa Sarovara, that is Lake Pampa, he explains it like this. Sanmanasya mano yatha, which means as clear as the mind of a virtuous, respectable person. That is, a mind in which thoughts are blemishless. This kind of expression instantly conveys the meaning intended so that the reader can visualize the cleanliness of the water. Another example, in the Mahakavya Raghuvamsha, written by the famous Kalidasa, there is an episode called Indumati Swayamvara. It is a scene where Princess Indumati chooses her partner. Prince Aja, son of King Raghu, also goes to the Swayamvara. Indumati, carrying the Swayamvara garland, walks past each prince while her maid makes the introductions. If Indumati pauses for a longer time in front of some prince, comparatively, then that prince's face is said to light up with joy in the hope that perhaps she may choose his hand. Like this, she progressively moves from one prince to another, getting introduced. Then the author says that the face of all the princes introduced and left behind without being chosen appeared to be like, he says, his face became dark. That is, Kalidasa says, Sancharini Deepashikeva, which means at night in total darkness, as one carries the flame of torch, wherever the torch bearer pauses, that place alone will be lit and very bright, leaving the other places behind to be enveloped in darkness again. Such darkness was the expression in the face of the princes who were introduced and then not chosen by Indumati. This is the meaning of Alankara. That is, the use of Alankara in literature not only beautifies the language itself but also helps to understand the meaning very clearly. Thus, Shivananda Lahiri is a beautiful composition which has many such alankaras named Upama, Rupaka, Anvaya, Anyonya, Atishayokti, etc., about which we will learn some details as we go through the verses. Now, let us try to understand the meaning of the word Shivananda Lahiri. In the place named Prayaga in Triveni Sangama. Triveni Sangama means confluence of three rivers. In such a place, long ago, in the beginning of time with Brahma, that is Kalparambhe, to expand creation, that is Srishti Kale, there was a deliberation among the rishis. The topic was, which object is the greatest or who is the greatest? The rishis could not have a consensus. So the munis went to consult Brahmaji on this issue. With great reverence and humility, they asked Brahmaji, Kaf Puman Sarva Tattvebhyah Puranah Paratah Parah, which means, who is the Lord of all things and objects in the universe? Who was before creation and who is visible through the present creation as being different from the Jagat? To that, Brahmaji replied, Yato vacho nivartante apraprapya manasa saha yasmat sarvam idam Brahma Vishnu Rudrendra Purvakam sahabhutendriyai sarvai sarvam samprasuyate. That Parabrahman who is difficult to be known by words and who is difficult to be visualized in the mind and who is the eternal, that is Nitya Vastu, is Parabrahman, the causeless cause from whom Brahma, Vishnu, Rudra, Indra and many other devatas came into manifestation within creation. He is the Lord of all creation and He is all-knower, Sarvajna. Also, from whom all the five principal elements were born and also the five sense organs were born. He is the only one that exists and is called Parameshwara. Such a great Parameshwara can be known only with extraordinary devotion. This is the reply given by Brahmaji. Now here, Parabrahman, this word means the attributeless Nirguna Brahma, and this is to be understood because Nirguna Brahma cannot be described by any number of words or visualized in the mind by ordinary people. Even tapasvis are said to have difficulty in visualizing Parabrahman. This Jagat, that is universe, which we are experiencing presently, was not like this in the beginning of creation. Nirguna Brahman is said to have the desire to create. In other words, the desire for creation arose in Nirguna Brahman. Then, in him, Pradhana Prakriti manifested. Consecutively, Mahat Tattva, etc., principal elements, gross elements, etc., came into being. Then, through the process of Panchikarana, the universe or Jagat, as we see and experience today, were created. That is, the word Shiva in Shivananda Lahari is to be understood as Parabrahman. Ananda Lahari of that Parabrahman is Shivananda Lahari. That is, waves of joy and bliss arising from knowing that Parabrahman Shiva. That is, Shivasya Anandaha Shivanandaha, Shivanandasya Lahari Shivananda Lahari. In other words, creating waves of Paramananda is the form in which the verses or shlokas are composed in Shivananda Lahari. Shivananda Lahari, shloka number 1. कलाभ्यां चूडालङ्कृतशशिकलाभ्यां निजतपः फलाभ्यां भक्तेषु प्रकटितफलाभ्यां भवतु मे शिवाभ्याम् अस्तोकत्रिभुवनशिवाभ्यां हृदि पुनर्भवाभ्याम् आनन्दस्फुरदनुभवाभ्यां नतिरियम्. Kalabhyam, that which is known by the Shruti or that which is known by the words of Veda or the form of all knowledge. Chudalankrita Sashikalabhyam, having the crescent moon as ornament decorating the tresses on the head. Nija Tapaf Phalabhyam, as a result of mutual penance, Shivaha obtained Shiva, means Parvati, and Shiva obtained Shivaha. That is, Lord Shiva did penance for some days without food, Niraharasya, and then also meditated for a long period of time. Similarly, Parvati also performed severe austerities. So that is Nija Tapaha. As a benefit or phala of the mutual penance, they obtained each other as spouse. Bhakteshu, to those who are very devoted to them, prakatita phalabhyam, fulfilling all their desires. Astoka tribhuvana shivabhyam. Astoka means magnanimously and completely. Tribhuvana, to beings in all the three worlds. Shivabhyam, bringing auspiciousness. Hridi, in the mind. Punarbhavabhyam, repeatedly giving a vision in the form of new experiences again and again. Ananda Sphuradhanubhavabhyam, in the mind of the meditators, giving the experience of self-awareness or bliss. That is, an awareness that the self is Brahman. Shivabhyam, Lord Shivaha and his consort Shiva, that is Parvati. May, my, iyam, this, natihi, prostrations or namaskara, bhavatu, be offered to. The adjectives used to describe Lord Shivaha and his consort Shiva in this verse beautifully reveals their greatness. Firstly, Sri Adi Shankaracharya offers his salutations to the Shiva united form so that the treatise may be completed without any hurdles. Secondly, he wishes and blesses all the devotees that they may also enjoy the auspiciousness of Shiva Shakti Dhyana through the verses of Shivananda Lahari, which he himself experiences all the time. What is the form of Shivaha and Shakti? What is their nature? What are their outstanding attributes? These are described in this very first verse. By offering worship to the united form of Shivaha and Shiva, Sri Shankara is once again making it known to us that without Shakti, Shivaha cannot perform any action. It is said that Paropi Shakti Rahitaha Shaktya Yukto Bhaved Yadi Srishti Sthiti Layan Kartum Ashaktaha Shaktayevahi, which means when Shiva is alone, he is incapable of performing any action. But united with Shakti, he becomes very able and fit to perform everything. In other words, it is the desire of Lord Shiva himself that one should always offer prayers only to the united form of Shiva and Shakti. Lord Shiva himself has said, Tvam ashrita mahabhage prapnuvanti achirena mam kevalam tvam anadhritya mam bhajantah vichetanaha narhanti mama sayudyam brahma kalpashatairapi. Only when Shakti is worshipped with Shiva, he can bless the devotee with Sayujyam, which means oneness with Brahman. The word Kalabhyam denotes all the syllables, K to L, all the consonants, and A, which includes all the vowels. That is, the group of all swaras and vyanjanas are included. This meaning was brought out while explaining Saundarya Lahari also. Shabdajatam aseshantu dhatte sarvasya vallabha arthaswarupam akhilam dhatte mugdhendu shekharaha, which means all the words and meanings are forms of Shivaha and Shiva. According to Vyakarana Shastra in Sanskrita, there is a concept called spota, which means an impression which flashes on the mind on hearing the sound of a word. And this word form called spota is said to be Brahman. The united form of Shivaha and Shiva are said to have this spota rupa Shabda Brahma as their body. Also, they are revealed by the words of Vedas. They have all the syllables beginning from A to Ksha as the limbs for their body, which is made up of words. And also, they are of a form which is very difficult to specifically define in a definite structure. Further, they are manifest as the meaning of all the words uttered. Unto such a great Shivabhyam, salutations are offered. This form of Shiva, the tresses on their head adorns as the ornament the crescent moon. There is a story about this. The great Daksha Prajapati, he had 27 daughters named Ashwini, Bharani, etc., who were married to Chandra, moon. Among them, only Rohini had a very special place in the heart of Chandra. So, the others were disturbed and did not approve of this biased outlook of Chandra. They made this known to their father Daksha, and Daksha cursed that Chandra be subject to Kshaya Roga, which is a disease wherein there will be diminution and body will be consumed. On hearing this, Chandra was frightened and he sought refuge in Lord Shiva, who took him under his fold and blessed Chandra with fearlessness. Knowing this, Daksha came to Shiva and explained Chandra's unacceptable behavior, and he asked Shiva to return Chandra to his custody. Shiva is a Sharanagata Rakshaka, protector of those who surrender to him. So he refused to return Chandra. Daksha became very angry and he wanted to curse Shiva. At that time, Brahma and Vishnu arrived. They split Chandra into two. One portion they blessed with stability, that is, no waxing or waning, and they gave it to Shiva. The other portion was subjected to waxing and waning, and that was given to the stars. This is a matter from the Puranas. So, it is this moon which is devoid of waxing and waning that decorates Shiva Parvati's tresses on the head. This is the meaning of Chudalankrita Sashikalabhyam. Purana mentions that both Shiva and Parvati did tapas. When Parvati is born as daughter of Daksha, she is known as Dakshayani. In that lifetime, she finds it impossible to bear the insult meted out to her husband Shiva by father Daksha. So, she does Atmatyaga, that is, voluntarily burns her body, and while doing so, she desires to obtain Shiva again as her husband in the next life. Accordingly, in her next life, she is born to Himavan and known as Parvati. As Parvati, she does very severe penance, tapas, to gain Shiva as her husband. On Dakshayani's death, Shiva also set out to do tapas to regain her as wife. So both, as a phala of their mutual tapas, obtained each other. This is the meaning given by Paraspara Nija Tapa Phalabhyam. In other words, both their tapas culminated in Shiva gaining Shiva and Shiva gaining Shiva. Such is the greatness of Shiva Shakti. As they are parents of the world, Jagataha, Mata and Pita. All the devotees are their children on whom they shower their compassion. So, the desires of all their children in the universe is fulfilled. Bhakteshu prakatita phalabhyam. Next, Tribhuvana Shivabhyam. As they are the cause for the creation of the three worlds, Tribhuvana, they bestow auspiciousness on all the beings of the three worlds. Then, in the minds of devotees who constantly meditate on Shiva Shakti, that is, when such minds, having dropped all external awareness, become one with Shiva Shakti in dhyana, then flashes of new experience of Ananda or Shiva Shakti Ananda is felt again and again. Then Shiva Shakti bless this meditator with the awareness that this Ananda experienced is nothing other than Shivananda. Gradually, the meditator is blessed further and evolves to know that Shivananda is the true form of oneself. That is, the truth about the form of oneself is revealed. Unto this form of Shivananda, in other words, Shivabhyam Anandaha, unto this Shiva, prayers and salutations are offered by Sri Shankara Bhagavad Pada. And then the treatise is continued to the next verse. Now, we will take a look at the deeper meaning implied in this verse. We know that there are three gunas, Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. When Tamo guna predominates, Parabrahman takes the name Rudra, and as a devourer of time, he performs the activity of dissolution, Samhara Karya of the universe. When Rajoguna predominates, he takes the form of creator and is manifest as Chaturmukha Brahmaji and performs the activity of creation, Srishti Karya. When Sattvaguna predominates, he takes the form of Vishnu, who is all-pervading and performs the activity of sustenance and protection, Sthiti Karya and Trana Karya. When all these three gunas are in equilibrium, this Parabrahman has Maya Shakti merged within himself and remains in the unmanifest form. In other words, he remains as the attributeless Nirguna Brahman. It is this Nirguna Brahman denoted by the word Shivabhyam. Salutations are offered Natihi Iyam Me by me Shankara unto this Shivabhyam. With this, meaning for this first verse is concluded. Shivananda Lahari, Shloka number 2. Galanti Shambho Tvaccharita Kilbisharajo Dalanti Dhikulya Saranishu Patanti Vijayatam Dishanti Samsara Brahmana Paritapopashamanam Vasanti Maccheto Hradabhuvi Shivananda Lahari. Anvaya, He Shambho, Tvaccharita Saritaha Galanti Kilbisharajo Dalanti Dhikulya Saranishu Patanti Samsara Brahmana Paritapa Upashamanam Dishanti Maccheto Hrada Bhuvi Vasanti Shivananda Lahari Vijayatam. He Shambho, O Shiva, you who are the cause of all happiness. Tvaccharita Saritaha, the river which is made of the glorious stories about you, that is, the glorious and extraordinary deeds of Lord Shiva, such as protecting the devotees, destroying the wicked and the adharmikas, caring for the upholders of dharma, and many more such deeds are said to be the river Saritaha. Galanti, such a river flowing, Kilbisha Rajaha, sins which are the particles of dust, Dalanti, are destroyed and washed away. Dhi Kulya Saranishu, the intellect is said to be the channels through which the river Patanti or Gachanti flows, and Samsara Brahmana Paritapa Upashamanam, thinking that there is joy and happiness in a life of samsara, having revolved in it, the delusion caused by that is Brahmana, is the Paritapa, suffering, which is Upashamanam, neutralized or appeased. Dishanti, causing the appeasement to that sorrow and suffering. Maccheto Hradabhuvi, in the place of my mind, which is a pond. Vasanti, residing or staying there. Shivananda Lahari, on listening to the glories and the deeds of Lord Shiva, the joy that arises in waves, one after the other continuously, Vijayatam, may it rise in abundance. In my mind, may that flow of Shivananda or Brahmananda remain forever. Sri Shankara Bhagavatpada made an auspicious beginning to this treatise in the previous shloka by offering salutations to the united form of Parvati Parameshwara. Then in this verse, he prays that the Shivananda or Brahmananda he experienced and gained through the salutations offered should eternally remain in his mind. So, the address to Shiva in this verse, He Shambho, itself implies the meaning that Lord Shiva will bestow happiness upon us. Sham means Sukha or happiness. One who blesses the devotee with happiness is Shambhu, which means The cause for any happiness is Shiva. Such a great Shiva's glorious stories flows in the form of a river. All those stories will be narrated for you in the shlokas which are yet to be rendered. So, from such a river arises a flow of the experience of bliss in continuous waves. This flow has a strong current which washes away all the sins, thereby clearing and cleaning the mind. Then the channels of the intellect are opened up to allow this flow of Lord Shiva's glories. One who continues to live a life in samsara with such a mature intellect will not be affected by the pain and challenges of samsara, because he or she will understand the limited nature of samsara. In other words, such a clean intellect will have the value of endurance, and this capacity will help the person get past challenges in life and have space like a pond to collect the flow of the glorious river in his mind. So the prayer is, may such a glorious river eternally flood my mind, or devoid of any samsara dukkha, may I enjoy Shivananda Lahari continuously for the rest of my life. So in this shloka, the figure of speech called Rupaka Alankara has been beautifully expressed. Rupaka means that which is being described and the object to which it is compared. The non-difference, abheda, between the two is highlighted. In this shloka, Lord Shiva's deeds is the river, the sins are dust particles, mind is the pond. So, this method of description is called Rupaka Alankara. This enhances one's understanding of the verse being described. With this, explanation of the meaning for this verse is concluded. Shivananda Lahari, Shloka number 3. त्रयीवेद्यं हृद्यं त्रिपुरहरमाद्यं त्रिनयनं जटाभारोदारं चलदुरगहारं मृगधरं महादेवं देवं मयि सदयभावं पशुपतिं चिदालम्बं साम्बं शिवम् अतिविडम्बं हृदि भजे. अन्वया त्रयीवेद्यं हृद्यं त्रिपुरहरम् आद्यं त्रिनयनं जटाभारोदारं चलद उरगहारं मृगधरं महादेवं देवं मयि सदयभावं पशुपतिं चिदालम्बं साम्बं अतिविडम्बं शिवं हृदि भजे. Trayi Vedyam. Trayi means the Vedas, one who can be known only by the Vedas. Hridyam, one who captivates the mind or one who manifests in the mind. Tripura Haram, one who destroyed Tripurasura. Another meaning is Pura means Sharira, body. We have a body which is said to be classified into three as Sthula Sharira, gross body, Sukshma Sharira, subtle body, Karana Sharira, causal body. Then Tripurahara will mean one who does not have these three bodies, Sthula, Sukshma and Karana Sharira Rahitaha. Adyam, one who was before the Jagat or universe, that is, one who was present before Srishti or creation. or present before the beginning of everything. Trinayanam, one who has three eyes. Jatabharodaram, who is majestic with long, dark, heavy tresses. Chalad Uraga Haram, one who adorns the constantly moving snakes as his garland. Mrigadharam, one who holds a deer in his hand. Mahadevam, Lord of all the Devatas, that is, a form which cannot be limited by time, space, or object. Devam, one who is a form of Ananda or bliss. Mai, in me, Sadaya Bhavam, full of kindness. He Pashupati, Lord of all beings. Chidalambam, one who is the substratum for consciousness. Sambam, one who is with Uma or Parvati. Atividambam, one who plays all the roles. Shivam, that Parameshwara. Hridi, in my mind. Bhaje, I pray to. In the seat of meditation, it is this form of Shiva or Parameshwara I meditate upon. In the previous shloka, Sri Shankara prayed that Shivananda or Brahmananda may remain eternally in his mind. For this to fructify, meditating on Lord Shiva constantly is a sadhana. Unto this, Sri Shankara describes the form of Lord Shiva as one who can be understood only by the Vedas, because Parameshwara is Nirguna, attributeless, Nirakara, without a gross form, Nishkriya, actionless, but in our mind, he can be known in the form of a blissful experience. He is said to be Tripura Hara, which means he destroyed Tripurasura. Shanmukha killed Tarakasura, and after that, Tarakasura's children, Taraksha, Kamalaksha, and Vidyunmali, meditated on Brahmaji in the place called Prayaga Kshetra. Subsequently, they gained direct vision of Brahmaji. They sought a boon of immortality, Amaratva, from Brahmaji. Then they also asked for 3 cities to be constructed in such a way that no powerful Devata could break through and enter the cities. In reply, Brahmaji said, "It is not possible to give you immortality, but I bless you with the power to create the 3 cities that you wish for." And then Brahmaji disappeared from their sight. Then Mayasura, on a day qualified by Pushya Nakshatra, he constructed a city made of iron on the earth, Bhumi. Then above that, he constructed a city made of silver in space, that is Antariksha. And above that, he constructed a city made of gold in heaven, that is Swargaloka. Taraksha occupied the city made of gold, Kamalaksha occupied the city made of silver, and Vidyunmali occupied the city made of iron. All of them, with their family, lived a life much more happier than what one would enjoy even in Swargaloka. Maya advised them that on any occasion, for any reason, they should not interfere with any of the Devatas. They should not become haughty or proud, and they should not lose proper conduct, that is acharahina. They should never become acharahina. And then they should always be engaged in Shiva Puja. If they follow this, he said, there will be no problem. For a very long period of time, They followed Maya's advice. But then they started to abuse the powers after a certain time. Their evil tendencies surfaced. They troubled and attacked the Devatas. Because they had gained punya from Shiva Puja and also they continued to follow Achara, no Devata could destroy them. Then Lord Vishnu came up with an idea. He created a Purusha, a being who was blessed with Maya Shakti. This Purusha was sent to the three cities wherein, using the Maya Shakti, the three of them, Taraksha, Kamalaksha and Vidyunmali, were made to lose their achara. Also, deluded by Maya Shakti, they gave up Shiva Puja. At that time, all the Devatas went to Parameshwara, worshipped him, and sought refuge in him. Shiva made the Bhumi into a chariot and the four Vedas into four horses. Then he tied those horses to that chariot. Brahma became the charioteer. The Mandara Parvata was made into the bow. Samudra or ocean was made into a quiver. Adisesha, serpent, was made into the bowstring. Vishnu was made into arrow or bana. Then, at a time when Pushya Nakshatra was positioned appropriately and the three cities aligned, Shiva shot an arrow there, and then in that one shot he burnt the three cities. This is how Shiva came to be known as Tripura Hara according to Purana. The word Adyam denotes that Shiva was present even before Srishti Kala. Shiva is said to be Trinayana. How did he get three eyes? Once, just for fun, Uma with her two hands closed the two eyes of Shiva. Consequently, the whole world was immersed in darkness. Sustenance of the world was in great danger. People lost their mind. Insanity prevailed everywhere. It was like the universe lost sunlight and all the living beings were subject to danger. This being the situation, Shiva brought forth a very bright flame of light from his forehead. This bright flame came to be manifest as the third eye. The brilliance of this flame was like that of Pralayagni, that is, fire at the time of annihilation of the universe. That brilliant flame started to burn down the Himalaya mountains. On seeing that, the action done for fun resulting in such destructive form, Uma was astonished. So, the brilliance, that is Tejas, which emerged from Shiva's eye on the forehead, burnt the Himalaya mountains to ashes. Seeing this, Uma brought her two hands together in Namaskara Mudra and prayed to Shankara. Shiva cooled down his sight and extended a very pleasant look at the Himalayan mountains. That brought back the original form of the mountains. This is how Shiva came to be known as Trinayana. How did he come to adorn serpents as ornaments and hold the deer in his hand? These two also have a narration which will be given later. Shiva is known as Mahadeva because he is the lord of Devatas. The word Deva means self-effulgent. So he is Paramananda Swarupa. Being compassionate to devotees, Shiva is also known as Pashupati. The word Pashu is described in Linga Purana as Brahmadya Stavarantascha Devadevasya Dhimataha Pashavah Parikirtyante Samsara Vashavartinaha Tesham Patitvat Bhagavan Rudrah Pashupatis Smritaha, which means all living things starting from Brahmaji, including vegetation, are within his samsara, which has no locus of its own. All are dependent on the Lord. So they are known as Pashu. Because Shiva is their Lord or Lord of all that exists in samsara, and Shiva is also Lord of the 8 Siddhis. Therefore, he is popularly known as Pashupatihi. Shiva is in the form of consciousness, Chaitanya Swarupa. So he is known as Chidalamba. Then, always being present with Parvati, Shiva is also known as Sambam. In this way, he is present in all the forms. Such a glorious form of Shiva I meditate upon because my desire is that Shivananda should remain eternally in my mind. This is Sri Shankara's prayer. This shloka has beautiful Shabdalankara. Traivedyam, Hridyam, Tripuraharam Adyam. Like this, in these, there is the repetition of Dyam, Dyam, the set of syllables. Then, in the words, Jatabharodaram, Chaladuragaharam, Mrigadharam. Here you find the repetition of the syllable Ram, Ram iti. Then Mahadevam, Devam, Mai Sadaya Bhavam. In these words, we see the repetition of the syllable Vam. Then in the words Chidalambam, Sambam, Atividambam, the syllable Bam sounds at the end of each word. This kind of shloka construction is said to have Shabdalankara, and this is also known as Prasalankara, that is Shabdanuprasaha. With this, meaning for verse 3 is concluded. To Shivananda Lahiri, shloka number 4. Sahasram vartante jagati vibudhaha kshudraphalada namanye swapneva tadanusaranam tatkritaphalam haribrahmadinam api nikatabhajam asulabham chiram yache shambho shiva tava padambhoja bhajanam. He Shambho. Anvaya. Jagati Kshudraphalada Vibudhaha Sahasram Vartante. Swapneva Tadanusaranam Tatkrita na Manye. He Shambho. He Shiva. Nikatabhajam Hari Brahmadinam api Asulabham Tava Padambhoja Bhajanam. Now, He Shambho, the cause for all happiness. Sukhasya Karani Bhutaha. Jagati, in this world, Kshudra Phaladaha, those who give temporary small rewards. Vibudhaha, that is, the Devatas, Sahasram, innumerable in thousands, Vartante, exist. He Shiva, one who is an embodiment of auspiciousness, I, Swapneva, even in my dreams, Tadanusaranam, following them or worshipping them, Tat Krita Phalam, the benefits or pleasures given by them, Na Manye, I do not accept at all, but Nikata Bhajam, always remaining in close proximity and worshipping or offering service, Hari Brahmadinam api, to Chaturmukha Brahma, to Vishnu, and the other Devatas also, Asulabham, difficult to attain. Tava, your Padambhoja Bhajanam, that worship of your lotus feet, Chiram, eternally or always, may I be privileged to attain. Yache, this I seek for. Shiva is the most eminent, surpassing all devatas. That's why the purpose of life is to offer worship to that Shiva's lotus feet. So, may such a privilege be bestowed upon me forever, is the prayer by Shankara. In this world, there are innumerable devatas with very limited powers who can bless one with only small passing pleasures. Such benefits and pleasures are very short lived. There is no long term joy in receiving these. Every human being has the desire to obtain sukha and ananda always. Now, what is that sukha we are seeking is not clearly known to us, but the desire exists. Such a sukha and ananda can be obtained only by praying to Shiva. That's why Shankara Bhagavatpada prays, seeking that may he be blessed with worship unto the lotus feet of this great Shiva. Opportunity to serve Parashiva's lotus feet cannot be obtained very easily. Even Hari, Brahma, and others mutually are in conflict over the matters about who is greatest. Each of them thinks he himself is the greatest. To come to a conclusion in this matter, they seek Lord Shiva's opinion with instructions. In other words, with advice from Shiva, they set out to find the basic locus of Shiva. Brahma sets out to find the beginning of Lord Shiva's crown, and Vishnu sets out to find the very base of Lord Shiva. In other words, Brahma went upwards into space, searching for Shiva's crown. Vishnu went downwards into Patala, searching for Lord Shiva's base. But the higher and higher Brahmaji travelled, he did not find Shiva's crown at all. Lower and lower Vishnu went, he did not find Shiva's base, that is the bottommost point. Then Vishnu returned and told Shiva that he could not find the lowest point. On the other hand, Brahma had an inflated ego because he was Srishtikarta, creator of all living beings in the universe, so eldest of all. He returned and told Shiva that he saw the topmost portion of Shiva's crown, although he could not find it at all. Shiva became unhappy hearing this false utterance and cursed Brahma. So, Shiva's form is such that his beginning and ending cannot be perceived even by Brahma and Vishnu. Naturally, for ordinary human beings, it is an impossibility. Sri Shankara seeks the blessings of Shiva to gain the privilege to worship the lotus feet of such a great Shiva himself. Lord Shiva is a form of Parabrahman. He pervades everywhere like Akasha, the sky. Like Akasha, he is devoid of parts, that is, Avayava Rahitaha. Ishvara is said to be Nirakara, formless. Prayer to formless Ishvara is also offered generally. With Maya Shakti, Shiva gains a form also. So, worship to a physical form is also offered. That is Murti Puja. We see people worshipping Shiva in both Murti form and also as Amurtaha. The other devatas are not Brahma Swarupa, so they are all said to be Jivas. Being Jivas, they can be worshipped only in a Murti form. One cannot worship them in the Nirakara form or formless state. Only Shiva is Brahmaswarupa, and so he is denoted by Omkara by the Vedas. Meaning of Omkara itself is Brahman. Thus, only for Lord Shiva, Sakara and Nirakara worship is offered. In truth, Parabrahman is Nirguna, But at the time of Srishti, with Maya Shakti, he is manifest as Saguna Brahman. This Sadashiva only is himself a form of knowledge also, and he is the locus for all forms of knowledge. It is this Sadashiva or Parabrahman who revealed the Vedas to Vishnu. He existed even before all creation. So he is called Adyam. It is because of blessings from this Sadashiva that Vishnu obtained his stature as Vishnu and Brahma obtained his stature as Brahma. Also, Devatas obtained their position as Devatas only with blessings from Sadashiva. In this way, one who worships this Sadashiva will have nothing more to be gained. In other words, such a devotee will gain everything. The reason is all the 8 siddhis, that is Ashtasiddhayah, are dependent for their power on Sadashiva. So, all the desires of the devotee will be fulfilled on worshipping this Sadashiva. Shiva is also known as Ashtamurti. That is, his form represents Bhumi, earth, Jala, water, Agni, fire, Vayu, air, Akasha, space, and Surya, sun, Chandra, moon, and Yajamana. In other words, Sadashiva's form is known by these 8 forms. Shiva in the form of Bhumi, that is Prithvi Murti, is the substratum for all life, movable and immovable. In the form of water, Jalamurti, he exists everywhere, inside and outside of Brahmanda. As water, he gives life to all the beings and also purifies them. As air, he is pranadhari, that is, he gives existence to the body residing in the heart. Shambhu's Agni form resides in yajnas, far excelling the attributes of any object. Inside human beings, he resides as Jatharagni, that is the digestive fire. It is very beneficial to worship Shambhu in the form of fire, Pavakaha. Vedic scholars praise Shambhu in the form of fire and follow the norms stipulated for fire worship. As air, Sadashiva pervades the universe. He exists inside and outside of all beings. So, Vayu Mandala is also Sadashiva Murti. All the above said forms are located in space. That Akasha is also Sadashiva Murti, which pervades the known and unknown universal existence. Among all these forms of Ashtamurti, Sadashiva, Yajamana is Atma. As consciousness, it exists in movable and immovable life forms. Ishvara, known as Yajamana Murti, gives auspiciousness. Scholars say those who have received initiation to perform yajna are themselves to be looked upon as Yajamana, that is, a form of Ashtamurti Sadashiva. To worship such a great Sadashiva who is omnipresent and offering services unto his lotus feet is not that easy. Asulabha. That's why Sri Shankara prays seeking blessings to attain the privilege to offer services unto such a significant lotus feet of Sadashiva. With this, today's meaning of the verse is concluded. While explaining yesterday's verse, 2 words were not described. One is Chalad Uragaharam and another is Mrigadharam. We'll look at Chalad Uragaharam first. In Darukavana, the Munis or sages are said to have sent a number of moving snakes behind Shiva as an irregular behavior of the sages. But Shiva was not adversely affected by those snakes. He adorned those as his garland. Also, the snakes which were afraid of Garuda, they sought refuge in Shiva. They were also worn as garland by Shiva. This is how Shiva came to wear an ornament which is a garland of moving snakes. The other word, Mrigadharam. In Darukavana, the sages created a deer to do Vamachara, that is irregular rituals. And they had left such a deer to go behind Shiva. But he held that deer by his left hand and caused it to remain still. That is, he made it immovable. So Shiva came to be known as Mrigadharam. Another meaning for Mrigadharam is the word Mriga itself has the meaning of Veda also. So Mrigadharam also means one who has the Vedas in his control. There is a saying, Ukti, Veda Shiva Shivo Vedaha, which means Shiva itself is Veda and Veda itself is Shiva. So with this, today's explanation is concluded. Shivananda Lahiri, Shloka number 5. Smritau Shastre Vaidye Shakuna Kavita Gana Phanitau Purane Mantre Va Stuti Natana Hasye Shvachaturaha Katham Rajñam Pritihi Bhavati Mai Koham Pashupate Pashum Mam Sarvajña Prathita Kripaya Palaya Vibhu. Anvaya will be almost similar. Smritau Shastre Vaidye Shakuna Kavita Gana Phanitau Purane Mantreva Stuti Natana Hasyeshu Achaturaha Katham Mai Rajñam Pritihi Bhavati. He Pashupate, He Prathita, He Vibho, Koham, that is Kaha Aham, Pashum Mam, He Sarvajña, Kripaya, Palaya. A question is likely to arise in the mind. Instead of praying to a devata whose form is not even visible to me in direct perception, and moreover, there is no guarantee when in the future will I reap the benefits of prayer to this out of sight devata. So, why not pray to the king who is present here and now? But in me there is no such greatness, is the humble feeling expressed by Sri Shankara in this shloka. Smritau, in Manusmriti, Yajnavalkya Smriti, etc. Shastre, in Tarka Shastra, Vyakarana Shastra, Jyotisha Shastra, etc. Vaidye, in Vaidya Shastra, that is medical knowledge. Shakuna Kavita Gana Phanitau. Shakuna means a shastra which points out the favorable and unfavorable hidden forces. For example, when one leaves the house setting out to fulfill some task, or one is planning to go out of station, then suppose a black crow comes in the way, then or a Garuda is sighted, or a fox coming to the left side or right side, etc. These are all believed to convey some message. The do's and don'ts before beginning something, like this, these are all taught by Shakuna Shastra. Kavita, the nature of a writer, that is writing prose, poetry, then in poetry the use of meter, the use of figures of speech, then bringing in words with very profound meaning. Next, Gana. In music, which is set to proper tune and rhythm, then Paniti, capacity to speak well. That is, in an assembly, being able to express words which will keep the audience engrossed. In this way, whether in Shakuna, Gana, Kavita, or Vakchaturya, Purane, in history and Shiva Purana, Vishnu Purana, etc., such valuable compositions. Then Mantre, in Mantra Shastra, Stuti Natana Hasyeshu. Stuti means praising someone else. Natana, dance form. Hasya, matters of humor. That is making others laugh happily through one's words. In this way, whether in Stuti, Natya or Hasya, any of these, I am a Chaturaha, not an expert. That is, in any of the above said matters, I have no expertise. Therefore, Ragnyam, to the kings, Mai, in me, Preetihi, respect or friendship, Katham Bhavati, how will it arise? Or how can they be pleased? Hey Pashupate, O Lord of all the living beings. Hey Sarvajna, O the all-knowing. Hey Vibho, you the one who is all-pervading. Hey Prathita, Lord, you who are praised by all the devatas. Pashum, one who is like an animal. Koham, who I am. I do not even know that. Mam, me. Kripaya, with kindness. Palaya, please protect. If we have to seek something from people of high stature or in a high position, then we should possess some favorable qualification. And this is mentioned in this verse by Bhagavad Pada as I do not have capability or qualification in anything. There are many smritis and I do not know all of them. Here smriti means Dharma Shastra. So keeping the meanings and message of the Vedas as a base, that which is written by great thinkers is called smriti. It is said, Shrutistu Vedo Vigneyo Dharma Shastrantu Vai Smritihi. So Shruti means Veda. It is a Paurusheya, that is not written by any person. It is a revealed text. Smriti is Dharma Shastra and it is Paurusheya. It is written by a person. Scholarship in Smriti or any Shastra is not there in me. If I have to receive any kind of support from the king, then I should be qualified or have expertise in at least any one of the above mentioned form of knowledge. But I am like an animal which has no expertise in anything. So this animal, Pashu, must be protected and cared for only by you. Because, O Lord, you are Pashupati, Pashunam Patihi. When one is not qualified in anything and is totally ignorant, the society calls such a person as a beast or an animal. That is Pashu. This is explained by a saying that is in a Subhashitam by a Subhashitakara. Sahitya Sangeeta Kala Vihinaha Sakshat Pashuhu Puchavishana Hinaha Trinanna Khadannapi Jivamanaha Tadbhagadeyam Paramam Pashunam. A person who has no qualification in Sahitya, that is literature, Sangeeta, Kala, any form of art, is said to be an animal, Pashu. But the difference between such an ignorant person and a Pashu is there is no Pucha, tail, and Vishana, horn. Devoid of tail and horn, this ignoramus is an animal Pashu. That animal lives eating grass, but this person doesn't eat grass. So, how to perceive this? It is said that this is the animal's fortune, that this person does not eat grass. because otherwise even those animals may not get that grass also to eat. So, protecting animals is also done by you only, hey Pashupati. So, that me who doesn't know Kaha Aham, who I am, even that also I don't know. So, you must care for with kindness, Kripaya. Sri Shankara expressing this with great humility is the prayer in this verse. Actually, it doesn't mean that Sri Shankara has mentioned the presence of good quality in himself. How we should pray and conduct ourselves, with what attitude we should worship Parameshwara, is taught to us by Sri Shankara Bhagavad Pada through this shloka. In addition, his intention is to educate us on how not to behave also. One should not think that Bhagavad Pada did not know all this conduct, behavior, etc. To us ordinary human beings, he is teaching values through the shlokas. In this shloka, the Sambodhana, that is, words used to address the Lord, are very beautiful. One is, He Pashupati, means you are the Lord and protector of all animals. And I am an animal, so I need to be protected by you. Then he says, He Sarvajna, you, the knower of everything, all knower. Then, He Prathita, you are very popular and distinguished because even the Vedas praise you. Not only that, He Vibho means you are the one all pervading, omnipresent, that is Sarvavyapi. And you possess all the qualities of Paramatma. So, only you must protect me. My situation and condition can be understood by you is the meaning Sri Bhagavad Pada conveys by using these 4 words of address. That is Sambodhana Padani. He Pashupate, He Sarvajna, He Prathita and He Vibho. With this, meaning of this verse is concluded.